Do you enjoy the Angel of Death series? Then head over to Stevie Jo's website to subscribe to her monthly newsletter. All new subscribers receive a preview of the current Angel of Death work in progress. Plus, all subscribers get free shipping on all orders for 2023. Head over to steviejoauthor.com to subscribe and receive the promo code. March is the anniversary of Angel of Death. Be sure to subscribe to the Composition of Imagination and watch as the Book Guardians turn the tables and interview Stevie Jo to learn all about the creation and motivation behind the beloved Angel of Death series.
Hi everybody, I'm your host and author Stevie Jo, and welcome to the Composition of Imagination. This is the show where we talk about all things related to my Angel of Death series. We'll get into like my writing style and just the fun ways that we get the books into your hands and all that good stuff. So you are in for a real treat today because I have with me my book guardians, Jason and Tasha. And we are so excited because this is the first episode of a brand new kind of mini series on this channel called Murmurs of Murr County. And that's where we are basically taking every single character that lives on Earth in the books, and we're breaking down their decisions, their personality, everything that they do. We're going to look at with a magnifying glass and comb through with a very fine-tooth comb. And we're going to talk about it. So it goes without saying, spoiler warning, if you haven't read the books, this is going to spoil everything. And then some. The other thing that I want to mention before we get started is the last couple weeks, we have been talking about the history and the founding of Murr County. And I think that those are really important videos to watch before the character breakdowns, because you learn a lot about the location and why these people live where they do and stuff like that. So go back, watch those. It's 2 parts. The first one is all about Merlance. The second one is all about Falshook Mountain. They are, if I dare say, fantastic histories.
Yes.
Because they're very detailed and they talk a lot about the magical things that you're really interested in these books. So that is, if you haven't watched them, go and watch those, then come back to this one because you will really enjoy this series as we talk about your favorite or least favorite characters. Today, for the whole month of February, we are talking about Skyelar. We're going to focus on her, and each episode that you watch about her, there will be 4 right now. Each episode that you watch about her is going to be centralized around one book at a time. So today, we're only going to reference who she is and how she behaves in the beginning. We're not going to bring in anything after this, because we only want to see here, and then we'll start to progress. So, let us begin. Let's just kind of go in order of events of the book. And of course, I have this is y'all's copy to be able to see, and I have our biblical reference right here so that we can be like, wait a minute, on page.
Yeah. Oh, Lord, here we go.
So, we're just going to go in order of what happens, but only what happens to Skyelar. If Skyelar is not in the chapter or in the scene of the chapter, we're not going to talk about it. And we'll get there whenever we get to the characters that are. So it's only related to Skyelar today. Right away, the very first chapter that you're introduced to her in is chapter 2. And you first meet her and learn that she's kind of a loner, right? Yeah. She lives in this little like cute cobblestone cottage that she built with her own 2 hands with magic, but you know. She didn't hire carpenters or anything. And she even has like a magical cloak. I don't call them spells because this isn't Harry Potter. She doesn't go into a book with a wand and be like, whatever the spells are, luminos or whatever they say. Luminosa. Sorry. And so she doesn't do that. It's literally just what she thinks. And this is about learning what mythicism means. What she thinks is what she can do. The only limitations are what she knows. You know what I mean? So, but she put a magical cloak kind of over her entire property to keep unwanted visitors from finding her. Privacy is very important to her. She also doesn't let anyone come into the main part of her house. So in the last video about Falshook Mountain, we do go into detail about what her house looks like and everything. Yeah. So I'm not going to do that here, but just know that there are two kind of sections of her house, if you will. The front part being the lab/studio apartment, because she's got like a pull-out couch and everything in there. But she also does all her work in there. That's public area. She totally doesn't care if anybody's in there. I mean, as long as they're welcome, as long as they're friend, not foe. But once you get past that, everything else she has, bedroom, kitchen, little library, office, whatever, that's all for her and her only. Yeah. No one goes in there, not even her father, whom, as we get through the books, you will see she adores this man, and she doesn't even let him in there. So that's a big, privacy thing. The reason she does all of this is because she has been ostracized, basically, from... she's, 3 hairs away from being excommunicated from the Jericho family. Because they all... I mean, that's basically what it's like, right? She...
Yeah, but she doesn't understand why.
Yeah.
But at the same time, where the family, aside from her father... Mm-hmm. really isn't communicating with her very well.
Yeah.
She's just like, you know what? Y'all deal with whatever you're doing. I'll just play over here.
Mm-hmm. I'm just going to be here with my stuff that I like, with the people that I like. That is all. So let's kind of talk about, since we're talking about the magic she uses to protect herself, we'll kind of go into a little more about what being a mythic means, because we haven't really gone into that detail a lot before. We've only touched on, magic is fluid and mythics can do whatever their minds can think and all that stuff, but we've not really gone into what a mythic does and is. So mythics are the magical creatures that appear, just looking at them, they look totally human, and but they do have certain magical abilities. The things that they can do depend on such a wide variety of factors, because every mythic is going to be different. The main factors that kind of determine what they can do with their magic is how old they are, how frequently they use their magic, and how they were taught magic. So in Skyelar's case, those are the 3 key things. And in Skyelar's case, her magical abilities are incredibly limited to what she can herself imagine doing, because no one was ever there to teach her things when she was growing up. Historically, the Jerichos have always hated creatures, so no one is really going to bother trying to take the time to learn for themselves how to teach her how to use her magic. And even her father had no real idea how to help. So she has no basis for comparison, no honest, looking at another mythic going, how did you do that? And learning. The good thing about Skyelar is she really enjoys studying. Yeah. And she learned several things from books while she was in college, when she got out of college. But that's different, Having the book smarts versus actually executing things in real life, 2 totally different things. So she doesn't always get it right when she tries something, but she tries, When we first meet her, the primary things she knows how to do with her magic is self-defense, because growing up with Peyton, they had a lot of physical altercations, and Skyelar learned how to defend herself from a lichen attack. So that was a good thing, I guess. But she also uses it as a convenience aid. And when I say that, I mean psychokinesis. I want that, pen over there to come over here, but I don't want to get up. Meh, and then it comes to my hand and I've got it. So that's kind of what she does. She can also, she's also telepathic, which she has worked on, not very well, but she's used it a lot growing up to try to make herself better. And she has the ability to read into someone's mind and view their thoughts and their memories. So she can do all of that stuff, and that's just what she knows on her own. Her mythicism is actually what is blamed to have caused the infamous incident. Here's that damn word again, the incident. So if you're new to the channel and haven't heard us talk about that before, I'm going to tell you about it from the perspective of in the beginning. Essentially, 3 years ago, before this book even began, a very traumatic event took place that involved several members of the Jericho family, and they all blamed Skyelar for it. It was so bad that Cordelia has never been able to forgive Skyelar, and she even had Skyelar, as a result, went into hiding in Falshook Mountain. That's why she has her house protected like she does today. Her father, Noel, is really the only one who ever supported her in spite of everybody else placing blame on her. So here's one of the first big discussion questions that we have. We already know that Skyelar has the ability to fight with her magic. So why did she go into hiding in Falshook Mountain? If everyone in the family, and really the entire county, blames her and looks at her as a deadly being because of the incident, why stick around? Why not just go somewhere else and start over?
Well, she still loves members of her family.
But you can love them from another state.
Who's to say other states are not worse?
Okay.
You know, you could. It's like going east or west, north or south. You know, they all have different standards.
Yeah.
So if she moved, might be, like a penal colony going in. It's like, as soon as you cross that border, well, if they find out you got any magic, any creature ability, you're immediately shuffled off to some, camp.
Yeah.
And never to be seen or heard from again, probably worked on by doctors and stuff like that,
Yeah.
So they can, because, humans, we got to figure it out. We don't understand it, so we got to cut it open and rip it out.
Yeah.
Well, how do you know if she went north, south, east, or west that it wouldn't have been better? Why does it always have to be worse?
That is a valid question.
That is a good question, but it also, I think another part of it is the mountain.
Okay.
Even though she's basically rudimentary in her abilities, I'm fairly sure she can sense when something or someone has a lot of magic in them, or if it's around them.
Right.
So she probably decided, well, town wants to burn me to the ground. I'll go up here, basically hide out, and I'll be one with the mountain.
Okay.
Because I can sense this area has a lot of magic.
Yeah.
And maybe being close to it will help me develop what I know.
Okay. When we first meet Skyelar, we're going to get into the actual plot and decisions and stuff now. When we first meet her, she's at her house with her boyfriend, Ezra. So here's where our discussion is really going to get fun right off the bat. So they have been dating for 6 months, and even though she doesn't always feel like she wants to keep seeing him, she stays with him because something about him has just captivated her. It's just, I don't know, just through time, I guess. I don't know. We're gonna explore that as we go through this video and talk about this book, because that is definitely a major driving force in her decisions, is what that mystery thing is about him that has captivated her. So Ezra is a sanguise, which is the cousin to the vampire. I've gone into detail on what that means before, so I'm not going to do it again. But the main thing that's worth repeating is vampires are extinct in the Angel of Death series. So in chapter 2 of In the Beginning, we see a bit of the dynamic between Skyelar and Ezra. She's
we do.
She's really captivated by his abilities, but they do scare her. That's important. She's captivated, but she's scared.
I don't know. I feel like cautious.
That is a good way to put it.
I don't want to say scared, because I feel like if she was scared, she probably would back off from him. And they would not have interaction like they would.
Yeah.
I feel like she's cautious.
And that's kind of a thing that she wrestles with within herself. As we talk about this, you'll see that where she's like, am I scared or am I just trying to be careful? Or do I love him? Like, she's kind of in this triangulatory bounce where she's like, how do I feel in this minute? You know, when he's around versus when he's not around.
Well, when
Scorpion.
Yeah.
You already see that there's manipulation going on.
Oh,
because even when we're introduced in chapter 2, she literally is one way when he's around. Soon as he's gone, she's walking around thinking clearly and all that stuff. Then he comes back and you're like, something ain't right.
And that's a developing theme throughout this book with her. That's one of her big struggles is, what the fuck is actually going on with me? Like, so, you know,
almost kind of go, really think outside the box for just a second and maybe you'll figure it out.
But the real question there is, does she have the ability to actually think outside of the box? Not that she's not smart enough to.
No.
But is something preventing her?
I think something's preventing her.
Yeah.
I think it's both. I think she really doesn't have the ability because, okay, if she really had the ability, she would have figured it out, one, a lot sooner, and two, been able to sit there as we go through the book. She would have been able to sit there and put little safeguards in place. So, you're going to play this little game.
Okay. So we'll talk more about the little games that they play with each other as we go through. So, Ezra, one of the reasons why I say that she has that little bit of that scared of him feeling is because he has this really bad habit of just pinning her against the wall or furniture or whatever and holding her in place so that she can't move. And an important thing about a sanguise, you may know this if you've read a lot of books about vampires, because again, sanguise are cousins to the vampire, so a lot of their features translate. They have unnatural strength. Like, if Ezra were to pin you like this and put his arms on either side of you, he would barely have to use any effort, but you would not be able to move him because he is that strong. And he can move like fucking the speed of sound. Like, you don't even know he's coming if he wants to. That's the thing. He has to want to be that way, you know? So that's why she gets a little fearful, because he has a habit of doing that to her, of just catching her off guard and like holding her in place until she basically bends and gives him what he wants. So she makes it known to him, and you even hear this in chapter 2 where she's like, I wish you'd stop, you know I hate that. And but
I'm sorry, baby. You know I can't help it when I'm around you.
And
he's a manipulative asshole.
And that's where she flips the coin.
Bag.
It's an abusive relationship.
And that's where she flips the coin and is like, all right, I'll give in. And it mainly happens when he starts like seducing her.
Yeah.
Because
if you want to call it
she
that.
likes seducing her. Because she likes that physical attention. And she's a very sexual person. She likes to, you know, it even says in the book, she's like, you know, having the occasional lover is fine. She enjoys sex as much as the next person.
Yeah.
So it's not like, you know, her body gives in, and he can sense that too. That's another thing.
Yeah.
He can tell that her body is betraying what she's saying. And he's like, come on, baby. You know you want this. And she's like, I don't, but I mean, if you're attracted to somebody, it's hard to turn your body off.
And the way she's introduced, I mean, you see, obviously, this is like, you know, the foundation.
Yeah.
So you see, to that point, you know, what kind of life she's had.
Yeah.
So that you kind of, in a way, understand why she's being manipulated, not only by, but everybody else.
Yeah.
In certain ways.
Yeah.
So
that's a really good point.
And as you know, as you go through the book, especially book 1, you see a very much. She goes through a big learning curve.
Whenever he's seducing her in chapter 2, whenever he like pins her and she's like, "Will you stop?" He's like, "Oh, but baby, I know you want it." She lets him kiss on her and start to like get hot and heavy. But then he makes the mistake of lifting his lips enough that she can feel the fangs hit her neck over her veins. Because that's what he wants.
Yeah.
Every time he's wanting to seduce her, that's what he wants. So when she feels that, she's like, nope, canceled, stop. In the past, we don't really know for sure how she has handled that before we see this scene happen. But it's safe to say that she does not handle it the way historically that she does in this moment because of his reaction. And what I'm talking about is whenever she tells him no and to stop, he kind of gets frustrated and, feels like it's a mixed message. She's like, yeah, okay, we can make out and fuck and all that. But then she feels the fangs and she's like, pump the brakes.
Yeah.
So he's frustrated and he won't move. So she uses her magic against him and pushes him. She puts her hand on his chest and doesn't even go like this. She just lets the magic do all the work and pushes him off of her. And based on his reaction of like shock and where he's like, what the hell was that? We know she's never done that before.
Yeah.
So right away, something is changing.
She's showing that she's not this timid, okay, let's call it for what it is, this timid nerd girl.
Yeah.
That he could sit there and basically just keep as a pet. Because that's in a way what he kind of looks at. And, well, she's starting to push back now, and he's like, well, if I really want to take her... Dude, quit sitting on the fence. If you're going to take her, take her. But he won't do it. Oh, she's got to commit to me. Why? You're going to kill her anyway.
At least that's what we think.
I mean,
we don't know for sure, but yeah.
But he doesn't... But
Skyelar's assumption is, yeah.
Yeah, but her assumption's not wrong. Because while she's thinking about that, in his mind, at the very same time, he's sitting there thinking... Well, if nothing else, I'll at least get her power, and I'll still keep going. And that's all he cares about. He doesn't truly care about her.
Yeah.
And so these little moments where she sits there and starts showing that...
It's like a warning sign.
Yeah. And he just sits there, well, I can still take you if I want to. Yeah. And it's like, come on, dude.
Yeah.
That's why we really, down the line, we really want to see him finally really see his mortality and go, oh hell, I'm really gonna die this time.
Because we may or may not get there, I don't know.
Because, I mean, seriously,
I may keep him around until the end of the series.
There's only maybe 5 people probably in the entire county, maybe hell, in the whole state, that probably even like being around him. That don't have some ulterior motive for being around him.
Yeah. They like genuinely enjoy him as a person.
Yeah.
So, and you're right. Those are warning signs that she's giving him. And it's funny, and you'll see in a second why it's funny, that it's happening today. In this moment, this is what we're capturing, that she's finally starting to go, no means no. Meanwhile, in his mind, he's like, well, no means yes, and yes means harder. So,
yeah.
You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
So
I've been doing this thousands of years.
Yeah.
You're still not good at it.
Yeah. So that's kind of how chapter 2 goes. It's just showing you Skylar's, how she feels about Ezra. You're kind of starting to get that, like, all right, what the fuck is my, like, what's going on with my, kind of, yeah.
Yeah, no, actually very much.
So then we go to chapter 3. and Skye and Ezra are going to brunch at the house of the McCoys. So when Skyelar and the McCoys, they get along well, but she's nowhere near as close to either one of them as like Ezra is to Julia. You know, they're more like, oh, these are just friends of my boyfriend or the guy that I'm fucking, however she chooses to phrase it. It's not that she doesn't like them or that they don't like her per se, kind of. Just that Skyelar, you know, never really clicked with them. They're not the kind of people she talks to and stuff. When Skyelar and Ezra arrive for this brunch, Ezra tries that thing again, where he pins Skyelar against the truck after he helps her out and closes the door. He pins her against the truck and like does a little mini like seduction tactic before they go inside. And once again, she shows him that warning sign where she pushes him away with her magic. And he is, again, stunned by a surprise Pikachu.
Actually, he's not only stunned, but he's angry. He's like, I gotta put a stop to that.
Yes.
Because she's not doing that to me.
Yeah. And this time, when she pushes him away, he gets angry, yes, but then they try to talk about why. Because he's trying to be delicate with her, I guess. You know, the way that she looks at it is it's like he's trying to calm things down by talking about it, but he's not doing a very good job. So Ezra even goes as far to say as converting her to a sanguise like him means more than a marriage proposal for his species. And Skyelar's immediate response is, well, you better not ask me that either.
Yeah.
Well, all right, let's fast forward through an uncomfortable brunch, courtesy of course, Sunny and Ezra, because they're having conflict. Skye goes into the kitchen during the Ezra and Sunny's little tiff, and she goes into the kitchen to help Julia make some mimosas because she's like, oh dear God, I don't want to be around this. So as she actually says that, Julia's like, you know what, I forgot mimosas. Skye, want to help me? And Skye's like, please God, yes. So they get up and go in there. On their way back in, and remember, this is only chapter 3, and this book is really starting off with a...
Yeah, it is.
On their way back into the dining room, Skyelar overhears Sunny say that Ezra is going to ask Skyelar to marry him. And she hears that, and she is beyond floored, dropping the glasses that she was carrying and just remaining completely shocked and frozen in place. Everybody's staring at her, and when Ezra tries to approach her, she gets scared, and she's like panicked now, and she tries to take a step back, but she slips in the mimosa juice that she just spilled. So of course, Ezra, being the sanguise that he is and the ability to move with that lightning fast speed, he comes over and catches her, trying to be her Prince Charming. And when he does, the diamond ring pops out of his pocket and lands by her feet. So we're going to talk about that diamond ring for a minute, because it's something that kind of tortures Skyelar throughout the whole book.
Yeah.
It's described, when she sees that diamond, it's described as massive. And Skye estimates, just looking at it, to be at least 5 carats, which is really huge by diamond standards. So, I measured it out on a ruler to help with, and it measures out to be roughly 3/4 of an inch.
Yes.
I know that doesn't sound big when you're measuring things, but when you're talking about a diamond ring, that's huge, man. Like, I took my tape measure and put it up to my finger, like a blank finger where I don't have a ring, and it takes up almost my whole knuckle right there. It is huge. Skyelar, when she sees it, is really taken aback, which most of us would be.
Yeah.
When you see a ring that size, you're going to be like, whoa. But then she grimaces at the very thought of walking around with that size rock on her finger. So why do you think that is? Is it just that because the ring is so big, or is it something else that's attached to it?
It's both. Because one, she's not one to be flashy. If anything, she wants to blend into the background. She doesn't want to be noticed. I don't care how much she dresses down. If she has that ring, you're going to be able to see that 10 miles away.
I mean,
the other half of it is oh my God, I'm going to be tied to that.
So like a realization.
Physically, yeah, that's great. Scratch off the surface, then you'll see the mess I have to deal with.
Yeah.
And that would horrify anybody.
Yeah. So, of course, after Ezra's attempt at a rom-com style proposal,
yeah,
his words to her, this was how his proposal went down. I love you. I want to spend forever catching you when you slip in spilled mimosas. What do you say?
No.
Not even will you marry me?
Yeah.
Just
he can't even. He is so lazy. He can't even sit there and do a proposal right.
And at that point, when he asked that question, as the reader, you're left on this kind of mini cliffhanger with Skye not really answering. She's just kind of like, the fuck is happening? I was just here for brunch. Like,
I was hungry.
I just wanted French toast.
Yeah.
And mimosas.
That's all. And now there's this. Like, and so the next time we see her, because that was chapter 3, you have to wait 3 whole fucking chapters to find out what her answer was. Chapter 6, they're taking a quiet drive. The opening line to that chapter is, quiet drives were the worst. And that tells you everything you need to know right there. Chapter can just end because you know what happened.
Yeah.
And then we get to do the flashback to right after the end.
Yeah. They're driving back to her place because it's safe to say brunch ended right then and there.
Yeah.
And they're driving back to her place. Turns out Skye told Ezra maybe. She had to think about it.
Maybe.
And now on this,
oh, my pride! My pride! Oh, it so hurt.
And now on this quiet drive back home, she's regretting her decision. So basically, Ezra is upset that she has to think about his proposal because he tells her, Skye, you know that this is what a sanguise relationship is like. You knew how this worked whenever we got into it.
6 months.
But he's like, you knew from day one. It's not like I hid anything from you. You knew from day one. So, but she is still hesitant to let him in. And when I say that, when you read the book and get his perspective, you understand more. But basically, he has always, because she's telepathic, he is kind of telepathic too. He can't talk to her in her mind, but he can do like she can and read into thoughts and see memories and things like that. So he's used to being able to see that stuff and know what she's thinking to try to change his tactics and whatever. But she's not letting him in at this point. She's put her brain on lockdown.
Here's another sign.
Warning sign number 4 if you take the proposal as a so she does not let him in. She kind of shut down and doesn't even really want to talk to him. And when he continues to press the issue, he presses it to the point where she just blurts out, I don't even know if you're it for me.
Yeah.
I don't know if you're the one that I want to be with. Well, that wasn't quite the right thing to say because now he does that fucking thing again and he pins her against the wall, but now it's out of anger. Not because he wants I just want her to give in to me. No, now it's out of anger because she's it for him. And he doesn't understand why it's not reciprocated. So he pins her against the wall and but the shitty thing is when he does it, she feels so bad about what she said that she doesn't fight him. Unlike before, she just lets him do it. She bites the bullet, and she's like, when he kisses her and makes advances on her, she gives in, she lets him do it. And it's a change from before the brunch because she doesn't, even though before she would let him kiss her and stuff, she still pushed him away and was like, that's enough. But here she's like, that was really shitty of me to say, so I'm just going to let him do his thing.
I mean, if that's not textbook manipulation and abuse.
Yeah.
And you sit there and I get,
yeah.
And the fact that, Mr. Overcompensation, because, he's got nothing going for him.
Yeah.
Has to sit there and physically do that, which, by the way, is a regular tactic of people that, oh, you're attacking my manhood. How dare you?
Yep.
And it's like, yeah, you know what? That's why you need to be thrown off a cliff. Because, everybody
like, yes.
Everybody gets insulted. I've had, my ego destroyed. And you know what? Guess what? Yeah. And you know what? The sun comes up the next day. But these
pieces and move on.
These types of people honestly should be rounded up and exterminated, because honestly they do nothing for society except make things worse.
And she even, when this is all happening, she even goes so far as to, and it's so shitty, and it's so cringy, because like in book 4 you talked about that being cringy. To me, this is more cringy, because she's willfully giving in because she feels bad.
Yeah.
Not because she's angry and needs just something to let that go on. She feels bad, and so then she starts to seductively tease him as she gets naked and even challenges him. She verbally says, "If I'm yours, prove that you can claim me." And that just makes me...
And yet, he didn't.
Yeah. Yeah. So, as if that wasn't enough of a what the fuck moment.
That was, though.
After they finish canoodling, Ezra... Yeah, I said canoodling. Ezra asks Skye...
That's what they call it these days.
Yeah.
Coitus.
Yeah. After they finish having coitus, Ezra asks if Skye meant what she said about proving that he can claim her, and her response is, "Don't know." She claims that everything is moving so fast with him, but he argues against her, because he's always going to try. And to appease him once again, Skye says kind of an off-the-cuff statement that's like, as the reader, you're looking at this going, "The fuck are you doing, woman?" Because she tells him that if he can promise she will not change her until a sanguise until she's ready, she'll marry him this weekend if that's what he wants. Whoa, ask and you shall receive. Because, of course, Ezra jumps on that opportunity, and he convinces her, and she agrees to wear the ring to think about it and see how it feels.
And this is the other half of that. That's the other half of the situation, is that he is reaching into her mind, and yet she's not reaching into his. Because the whole time he was talking to her, he was bullshitting the whole way. He's like, yeah, I'm going to tell her all that stuff, but I'm still going to change her.
The next time you see, because that's how chapter 6 ends, so the next time we see them is at family game night in chapter 8. This is the most important chapter in this whole book. By far. A lot more important, like not more important, but a lot of really critical things happen after it, but this is the jumping off point.
It's also
it's the catalyst
it's a catalyst, but it's also a great snapshot of all the personalities and how the family is.
Yeah,
together.
it's a great view, almost like that bird's eye view of almost the whole Jericho family. Skye does not always attend because she's been exiled by the family. Because of her role in the incident, they really have not
ostracized from the family.
Yes. We don't yet know exactly what her role in the incident was. It's just that she was blamed for it. And so a lot of them are like, ew, Skyelar. So that's why she doesn't come over a lot. But on this night,
hey, we weren't expecting you.
Yeah. Now
that's
that's not to say that all of them feel that way. Just
No,
a
Regal
few of them.
doesn't.
Yeah, just a few of them feel that way, but it's just enough to discourage her. So on this
Or
particular night,
it may be one of those. It's not anything said. She feels the vibes coming off.
oh, she does, because she even talks
Yeah.
about that in the book. She's like, no one outwardly says, Skyelar, almost no one outwardly says, Skyelar, I hate you. You're the worst. You ruined everything because of the incident. But she gets that feeling. So that's why she's kind of discouraged from going. But with Ezra's encouragement, there's 2 words I never thought I would say. Skyelar does show up to game night, and she really wants to keep a low profile with this whole, potential engagement thing. But, as fate would have it, you know how fate works in these books a little bit by now, Peyton intercepts her when she catches a glimpse of the ring. And
Did you not?
I know, right? Because Skyelar happens to be in the truck still with Ezra, and she makes a motion with her hand, and Peyton was coming over to get her out of the
And
truck.
them liking eyes can see
oh,
for miles.
for sure.
She's like, ding.
Something shiny. Oh, and so I mean, like we said, how can you miss a ring that size? So after Peyton sees that ring, because everybody, I think the astronauts in fucking space saw that ring, she gets really excited for Skye, and this is what I'm talking about that I love you so much, you're my best friend, we're sisters kind of thing. And of course, Skyelar being already nervous about the whole thing, when Peyton starts getting excited for her, Skyelar starts to withdraw because she's like, this is not what I wanted. Again, going back to Jason's very, very good observation of Skyelar just wanting to be in the background and not wanting to be the focal point of anything. Yeah. Sorry, honey, you're the focal point of my story. So she even says out loud, she's not ready for this. She can't do this. But of course, Peyton, ever being the supportive sister, she tries to coax Skyelar into coming inside and showing off the ring to everybody, because think of the heart attack you'll give mom. Yeah. That's the big, that's how siblings are.
You really want to do something, give that old bird a real shock to the system.
You know how mom feels about you, so why don't you show her that and see what she says? Of course, Skylar's like, well, yeah, I want to see mom have a heart attack. duh. But she still is like, but I still don't want to do it like this. I want
to give her a heart attack. I want to legit give her a heart attack.
Yeah.
I don't want to wear a ring that I don't really want.
Yeah.
Just so I can get her to go, ah!
Uh-huh. So, but she does reluctantly get dragged into the house by Peyton, and they're at Regal's house.
I mean, this is the ultimate setup.
Oh yeah.
I mean, it's where you get backed into a corner. There is no punching your way out.
Mm-hmm.
And the whole time, even though it's not explicitly said, but the whole time Peyton's sitting there with Skye. Old Genius is sitting there just cheesing and everything, sitting there going, I got her.
Yeah.
Got her.
He's loving this.
Yeah, because it's the ultimate trap.
Yeah.
And the thing is Skye knows it, and she's still walking into it.
Yeah. So, they're at their Uncle Regal's house. That's where everybody's gathering this time. And she goes in, and Peyton forces her to show off the ring to the family, and Skye really is kind of horrified because she didn't want to do this. And she wanted everything to be done.
There's a key thing in this whole narrative.
Yeah.
She didn't want to do this.
If she was gonna do it, she wanted to do it on her terms, not everybody else's.
It would have been an email and maybe a picture.
Right? Maybe the picture. So everybody has something to say about her surprise engagement, which, by the way, she still hasn't formally agreed to. It's still a maybe.
Yeah.
But showing this off, everybody's like, OMG, I'm so happy for you, or whatever their reaction is. But the only reaction that she cares about is her father. He's the only one that matters. So, and honestly, when he sees it, right away, just like you said, he's not buying it. Noel knows his daughter. You know, I don't care.
And he knows what a POS.
Yeah, I don't care what she's done in the past. He loves and knows his daughter. And he kind of serves in this moment when she's kind of looking to him for that reaction. He serves as like a reality check that she needs throughout this whole process. Where when he asks her, "Are you happy?" she kind of chokes out the response of yes, and it's really hushed. It says that in the book. She whispers it on a choking breath.
Yeah.
That, you know, it's like, and she hopes no one noticed that she gave that kind of yes response.
But he knew it immediately.
Exactly. So now, I do want to ask here before we kind of dissect her response a little more. If Noel's opinion matters so much to Skyelar, why didn't she take the out that he offered her? Like, why did she respond with that choked up yes that was meant, as it says in the book, the way she said yes was meant to answer both his question about are you happy and to affirmatively answer Ezra's question of what do you say? So why did she do that instead of taking Noel's like, hey, do you need out of this? Because I'll help you.
Because she didn't take it as that. She, even though she was signaling through her response that no, she's not.
Yeah.
She didn't. I don't think she was fully aware of what her father was telling her.
Yeah.
So she was so overwhelmed by the situation and, you know, shit for brains manipulation. She was overwhelmed by the situation.
Right.
So she probably didn't fully understand the question.
Okay.
And just reacted. But her body and her emotions betrayed what she was trying to project.
Faux show. Yeah.
And he understood it. That's why he reacted the way
Noel
he did.
understands the assignment. As a father, Noel understands the assignment.
You know, because you could tell by just him asking that question.
Oh, yeah.
That it's like, do I need to pull out my silver bullets and light him up?
Yeah.
Because I will do it.
The
I am a
power
man
of
of-
Christ compels you.
Even though Age would be like, oh, bring it on, old man. You ain't going to do nothing
I
to
know. That's always, and that always.
me. Yeah, I mean, he even says it.
Yeah, he does.
And
He
it's
does.
like,
Oh, yeah, that's a fun conversation. That just those little moments between Noel and Ezra when they're trying to not let Skyelar see the conflict. It's so, but then at the same time, Skyelar hates that because she feels like everybody's talking like she's not there.
Yeah.
So, you know, so it kind of is a double-edged sword. She wants to blend into the background and not be that predominant, like, force. But she also wants people to quit acting like she doesn't exist because they're making these life decisions for her. The one opinion, so we know that Noel's was the one opinion that mattered to Skyelar when it comes to this engagement. But the one opinion that she fully expected to receive and not care about was that of her mother. Shouldn't come as a surprise based on what little we've talked about to this point. She anticipated, really, from Cordelia, an outrageously overblown reaction, just like Peyton was hinting at.
mm-hmm.
And she thought it would be something that would cause an argument because those two are known for being very berating and volatile. They don't get physical the way that Skyelar and Peyton do.
Cordelia didn't dirty her hands.
She's sharp with her words,
Yeah.
is what Cordelia is. She's very much like that. And there's no respect there. I mean, you get that almost immediately. It's like, wow, you don't even respect your own daughter? Like, what the fuck?
You almost wonder if she was immaculately conceived.
Skyelar?
Yeah. Like it literally never came through Cordelia. It appeared.
Skyelar just all of a sudden
I'm
knows,
serious.
by the way, here's the kid I've got. It's like she's a baby. I just got her.
Yeah, I mean, think about it though, because their relationship is so destroyed.
Yeah.
That you really go, you really carried this girl for 9 months, and gave birth to her.
Yeah.
And the other half of it is the hatred.
Mm-hmm.
Of
it's like
the
a resentment.
Creature. No, it's just straight up. It's not resentment.
Well, she hates the creature, but she resents Skyelar for the incident.
Yeah.
No, just by what you describe in book one, that that resentment / hate, and that's all you can call it. Mm-hmm. You cannot call it I don't understand.
No, it's resentment and hate.
It is resentment and hate.
Very in your face about it. So that's what Skyelar was expecting, because that's the norm. Mm-hmm. That's what her relationship is like with Cordelia. But color her surprised when Cordelia actually compliments the ring and says, Skyelar, I'm very happy for you. You will be a beautiful bride.
Well, that's what a mother says.
And so even more surprising, though, is when they all sit down to have dinner before they play their game and whatever. Oh, there will be a game to be played. Delia actually takes an interest. Delia actually takes an interest in the wedding. And that's even more surprising to Skyelar. Granted, she does kind of make some backhanded, compliments or whatever you want to call them, where she's like, well, Skyelar, it's almost like they're serving to unsettle her. Cordelia can't just let a nice thing be for a little bit. And she's like, weddings are overwhelming, and she thinks that Sky and Ezra will just end up divorcing because of how quick everything's happening. And that right there is more of the response Skyelar expected. Although
there it is.
Yeah. Although she does still, even though she was anticipating it, she totally takes offense to it. And why wouldn't she? You know what I mean? So do you think that Sky secretly wanted her mother's approval? Or do you think that she was actually hoping for Delia to start an argument so that Sky could have a different kind of out? She didn't catch the out from her dad, so...
She missed it.
Yeah.
She straight up missed it.
Yeah, she missed it. So now her mom's there and she's like, you've got to give me an out. Fight with me about this.
Yeah, she figured that, ooh. Because Delia comes across, honestly, really old, crusty money. Because...
Old and... I know your face, that's because I'm thinking old and crusty money.
You know what I mean? They
like a stripper with a yeast infection. Just old and crusty. Just
they have been out of touch with reality because they have so much money.
Yeah.
And she probably looks at Ezra lower than a commoner.
Yeah. It's known in the books that Cordelia does not approve of Ezra at all.
So, Sky was like, well, guess what? We're getting married. I don't want to, but we're doing it. And hoping that Cordelia would just absolutely explode, because then that would give her the out that she really wanted. Mm-hmm. And then, oh, well, that's great. I want to help. Damn it.
In chapter 8, where all this takes place, like I said, it's a really big chapter for the fate of Skyelar and Ezra's relationship. The argument that Delia starts when she's like, your relationship's just going to end up in divorce, but whatever, it really gets out of hand very fast. Not that Skyelar minds, because you kind of get that inkling, like we just talked about, that she really wanted that out. And it especially escalates when Sky is led to believe that Ezra, she finally, catches on, the light bulb pops on, and she's like, you fucking planned this to trap me. You did all this on purpose. She does outright blame him for that. And so she sees it finally as a trap to get her to marry him. because of, like you had said before, where what a dick move. The guy proposes in front of people. She can't say no. She looks like a bitch if she does. Skye accuses him of trapping her in this marriage.
Very true.
And she says, you know, you've just been tricking me all along just to get what you want, which is to drink her blood and convert her to a sanguise like him. So when she says that, not in those exact words, but, you know, she says it to where the family is just kind of like, ooh, what the hell? And of course, this is news to them. They don't understand what the bloodlust exchange ceremony entails. They don't understand exactly how a sanguise lives and functions. And Delia is the only one bold enough to ask about it. Everybody else is just like, I don't think I want to know. And she's like, being the scientist that she is, you know, she's like,
interesting, do tell.
Yeah, she's like, hold up. What is he talking about? Like, what is this thing you're talking about? So, and then to round out this eventful chapter, Skyelar and Ezra bust out into a fucking physical fight in front of the whole family.
Which was awesome.
It was awesome. So Ezra, the way it all starts is when she's getting all uppity. That's how he views it. But when she's getting really upset with the whole situation and she's talking about what it is, he tries to calm her by, like, you know, holding her and, like, trying to put his hand on her. And she's like, don't you fucking touch me. Like, she ends up using her magic. Again, this is no longer a warning shot. This is like, you know, this is it. And she fucking shoves him all the way from the table against the wall. Pictures fall off the wall. He's like, he's reacting
due to hurt pride.
Exactly. And so they're getting physical with each other, magic against sanguise, and then he ends up doing that fucking thing again, because that's like the only thing he can do to get her, is he pins her up against that wall, and he uses his strength, and he forces her head to turn so he can see her veins, and he's like, fuck it, I'm doing it right now. It's not the wedding you want, but it's the wedding you deserve. And he's gonna, like, do it right then and there in front of everybody. And of course, the family is understandably horrified, and this is where it gets really, to me, interesting because of how everybody else responds. Mm-hmm. So Peyton and Ava immediately take it upon themselves to intervene. Ava, ever the loving champion of Skyelar's happiness, Ava is Rhaegal's daughter, Skyelar's cousin, so they're very close. She instantly does not hesitate. When she sees Skyelar in danger, she fucking unleashes her beast and goes at him. And he fights against her, and because he saw it coming. I mean, he's surrounded by a family of Rhaegal, and his daughter are both Lycans, plus Peyton's a Lycan, so he's like, I know something's coming.
I'd love to see him take on Rhaegal.
I know, right?
Like, Rhaegal goes on full beast mode.
Oh, yeah.
And pissed off.
Oh, yeah.
I don't think Vampire Boy would be standing very long after that, because he would get crushed.
Oh, he would. So Peyton, whereas Ava instantaneously was like, I have to help my family, Peyton gets up with the intention of changing and helping, but then she stops and she doesn't do anything. She's kind of is like, all right, I'm just gonna stay back here.
It's embarrassment.
You know?
She doesn't, she's so embarrassed by her creature that in that setting, if she had to defend everybody, she couldn't do it because she doesn't want the family to see her in her creature form.
It could be. And then, so now, because Peyton backed out, it's just Skyelar and Ava trying to control Ezra on their own. And after shattering a window with the force of her magic, because all she has is, like, he's holding her arms. All she has is just, like, she can wiggle her fingers a little bit. So she shatters a window and gets a piece of glass from it and fucking stabs him right in the chest. Mm-hmm. It's a very satisfying moment if you're not a big Ezra fan. And when she stabs him, they have one of those little asides that the rest of the family doesn't get to hear. They just see what like they see them talking very closely. She hovers over him, holding onto the glass in his chest, like keeping it there, and he's trying to get him off of her. And when they finally start coming down from their anger high, the rest of the family is like waiting with bated breath. So back to that little hushed moment between Skye and Ezra. They take a second where she kind of, for the first time, really attempts to assert some dominance over him. She's got him on the ground. She's kind of kneeling above him, holding that glass in his chest. And she reminds him, this is where the dominance factor comes in. She tells him, I could have killed you. I could have stabbed you in the heart, but I chose not to. And she's like, remember that next time. And because she even says, if you pull that shit again, I will not miss. And then she makes a big show out of, this is like what you were talking about before about love. She makes a big show about letting go of the glass so he can finally pull it out of his chest. And she says really loudly, I love you, and gets up and walks out. So, why did she even say that she loves him at all? Why? After all that, why be like, all right, I stabbed you in the chest. Now let me make sure everybody knows I love you. And she just leaves.
I think she did it as basically like a fuck you. You know, like, I almost killed you. I love you. I'm going home. You know?
Yeah.
That's what crazy bitches do.
That's true. She did kind of snap.
If you look at how you structured that whole scene, the build up to the fight, I got the sensation that as the pressure built up to the breaking point, her power was getting stronger and stronger to the point where everybody in the room could sense it. They just didn't realize what it was.
Right.
Well,
all of that begs the question, because she's had her father offer her an out. She's had her mother offer her an out. She just gave herself an out by stabbing him. If that's not cause for saying, fuck you, I don't want to marry you, I don't know what is. But yet, she still tells him, makes a show of saying, I love you, and she even, as she walks out, tells the family, see you Sunday at our wedding. What the fuck?
I think maybe in her mind, she sat there, she's like, look, I'll marry his ass, but I ain't going through the ceremony.
Okay.
And I just laid down the ground rules that you try to come at me again, I don't care if we're married or not, I will run this through your heart, and there's nothing you're gonna do.
Oh yeah.
But I still think she's under a little bit of manipulation influence.
Right.
Or maybe she was setting him up for a huge embarrassment. Like, she'd go all the way up to the point of doing the ceremony and then be like, deuces, and then walk away.
Does anybody have any objections? Yes, I do. As the bride, I object to this. Anyway, so I said before a couple times that chapter 8 is just the most important chapter in this whole book. And that's because it serves as the catalyst not only to help show you that she's trying to find that strength within her, but also because it sends her into the arms of another man.
I like how she does that.
If you can't tell by my smile how much I love Elias Luck. Anyway, he 9 chapters in. His name is Elias Luck. 9 chapters in, we finally get introduced to what might be the other factor, that unknown factor preventing Skye from being all in with Ezra. So we're going to talk a little bit about what we know about the Skye and Eli relationship to this point, just through book 1. We know that they met 3 years ago when she finally got curious enough with what the Devil's Fountain was, because it was a new bar. and it's kind of across from her house. So she got curious enough to finally come in for a drink. The short version of their meeting is Skye came into the bar, she sat down, ordered a drink. Eli was sitting on the other side of the bar, and he could see her and was like, oh, there's a, not to like call her a thing, but I'm Lord of the Rings quote, there's a pretty thing. So, you know, I have to get my one LOTR quote in today. And so he saw her, heard what she ordered, and was like, I'll make it myself. So he uses his magic and does a cool little parlor trick where he makes the drink for her and sends it over to her. And then he comes over, starts talking to her, and they have been talking pretty much daily ever since. And they're very, very close. It's very obvious that she is physically attracted to him because every time she sees him, she's ogling his physique or, you know, thinking about like kind of wondering how good he would be in bed or something like that. She even makes a comment in the chapter when they meet at the bar. She says she bets that he would be able to satisfy her and then get her high afterwards. So, you know, that's kind of what she thinks about him. She has no qualms with openly flirting with him. She is very obvious with everything. And it's also a safe bet to assume, based on how he treats her and cares for her, that Eli is attracted to her as well. So Eli's opinion very, very much matters to Skye because and that's obvious, she doesn't even have to tell us that. It's just obvious by the way that when she approaches him at the bar after this whole thing happens, she comes to the bar, he's smoking a joint, and she's like, pass that over here because I need it more than you do. And she takes a puff and he's like, oh no, what happened? And she goes, I don't think I can tell you because it'll probably scare you off. And he's like, nah, nothing will scare me off. They go in, they go to sit down. She goes to try to tell him, and he's trying to coax it out of her like, it's all right, you can tell me. And she's terrified. So it's very obvious, based on just that behavior, that she really, really, his opinion matters that much.
Yeah.
And she can't even muster the courage to tell him that she's engaged. She instead just takes the ring and puts it on the table. And that's how she tells him, because she's not even wearing it whenever she goes up to him. She's got it in her pocket. When she lays the ring out and they're both just like sitting there surprised to, like, he's shocked and frankly a little upset. But when they finally get over that like hump of the surprise, Eli states, he flat out just says, so you're engaged. And she almost like he's confirming it with her. And all she says is, he asked me to marry him and I felt compelled to say yes. And so they
Isn't that the quintessential manipulation?
Oh, for sure.
I was compelled to say yes. How are you compelled?
For sure. But she, you know, you get the feeling that after that fight with Ezra that she just had, she's kind of starting to realize, like, oh shit, my thoughts may not have always been my own. Like, and so as Skye and Eli continue to talk it over, Skye confesses to him, which she has not really done to this point to anybody. She confesses to Eli that she doesn't really feel love for Ezra. And she doesn't, quite frankly, if she goes through with this wedding, she says, I won't make it to the end of next week. And this is, like she's saying, this is a death row sentence for me. And Eli does his best to encourage her. You know, we'll get into his motives and all that later, but just know he's doing his best to encourage her, but she still seems defeated. So then he says, Skye, tell me what you really want. Well, she doesn't quite say it exactly, but the moment is there, and she kind of starts leaning in to make the effort to kiss him because, let's be real, that's what she wants. And because homegirl likes to be satisfied, and she hasn't been satisfied in 6 months. So,
if not longer.
So she, in her mind, she's looking at Elias going, this man, if I kissed him right now, it would be a normal kiss. There's no fangs. There's no threat of the blood. There's no threat of anything. It would be a normal kiss from lips to lips. No chains, no strings attached. So she thinks that he can give him the normalcy that she craves, like the love that she can't get from someone like Ezra. But Eli rejects her. Granted, it's very delicate. He really tries, but it disappoints her, and it kind of embarrasses her. So she just...
I just put myself out there and rejected
and she's like, all right, well, fuck me, right? Wish you would.
Yeah.
You know? And so she starts to leave, but before she does, she turns to him and asks him to come to the wedding because, quote, I need you there. So even after he rejects her advancement, she still wants him at the wedding. What did she mean when she said she needs him there? Is she trying to set him up as like her savior, like the one who will stand up and say, I object? Or is there another reason, do you think?
Just support.
Just general?
Yeah,
like,
just general support. You know, that, or I may need an out because may end up blowing up the church.
So here's out number 4 that she's trying to get.
But as you see, you know, perfect opportunity for Skye to, you know, get out from under the influence, so to speak. And as great as Elias is, what's the first damn thing he does? Stop.
Yep, the wall comes up.
I'm like, dude.
So fast forward to Saturday night, because that was a Friday. Here we are on Saturday night. And Ezra shows up at Skye's place wanting to talk to her.
Oh, God.
Uh-huh. And he's apologizing for his behavior the night before. And Skye is actually, when he makes his apology, she's genuinely surprised. She's like, she even says, wow, that's a first. She also questions his apology. She's like, why are you really apologizing to me? Is it because you feel bad? Or is it because, you know, and she lists like other things. And she even says that, you know, he kind of acted more like a monster than a boyfriend or even than a reasonable creature. And that's one of the underlying issues is that creatures have a really bad rep. And his behavior last night only served to perpetuate it. So Skye, she doesn't tell him that, but it is something she's thinking and something that we as readers can infer based on how she behaves in this chapter. So she does soften for him for some reason, and she tells him, "You're not a monster. You're just a pain in the ass." You know, again.
Who's giving who now?
Yeah.
I mean, she had him dead to rights.
I know.
And, it's okay.
I know.
Girl,
it's frustrating. The cycle is frustrating, and it has to break. The question is, how? So...
you got this, you got the triangle going on.
Yeah.
You got to knock out the corner.
Yeah. Give yourself a little opening right there. So, now she introspectively thinks about how she's afraid of his power. And she also says she's afraid of what he can do. And of that, it's like that particular sanguine's ability that he has that can possibly kill her, meaning the BLE. Plus, she even says, Ezra, I really like who I am. You know, sure, I'm chastised for the incident and everyone's afraid of me, but I don't want to change who I am to save my life. Like, that's exactly what it is. She loves being a mythic, but Ezra refuses to buy it. He is not picking up what she's putting down. And then he even goes so far as to claim that he's stronger than her and he can keep her alive during the BLE so that she in turn will be stronger afterwards.
Oh, spoken like a true asshole.
So Skye fakes a smile for him because, I mean, let's face it, at this point, it's probably safe to say she's sick of fighting.
I don't even think it's that. I think when he came in, whatever manipulation tool he was using,
kind of really,
like, he really focused it, because by all accounts, she pretty much laid down the law.
yeah, and she should not have let
And
him
of
go
course,
that
you know,
easy.
again, he comes in trying to, oh, baby, you know how much I love you.
Yeah.
And
Yeah. So she fakes that smile for him, but deep down, she's really still not wanting to go through with this. And she promised it as tomorrow. She even told her family, see you Sunday.
Why?
That's the question of the whole book. The theme of In the Beginning. Why, Skyelar? Why? So, she kind of does toy with the idea, and that may be partly because of what you were saying, the manipulation tactic. She toys with the idea of going through with it, and she starts to wonder if the BLE is about an even exchange of life and power, or if Ezra is wanting to take more than he gives. That's her introspection. She's starting to kind of piece things together.
The magic that's been inside her is finally starting to talk to her.
Exactly. So she has all these questions, all these concerns that have been raised, and she even wants to talk about the details of the BLE more, but she doesn't.
But she doesn't have anybody to talk to about it.
She kind of wants to talk to him, but she doesn't. So she actually never breathes a word to him. All she does is give in, again, to the physicality of their relationship.
I don't think she could talk to him.
You don't think so?
No. And the reason why is he would sell her a line of bullshit.
Oh, for sure.
All her questions, he would sit there and spin some way and make it lesser than what it truly would be.
Yeah.
And that's why she was smart not to ask.
Yeah.
Because one, that's tipping her hat and saying, hey, this is where I'm at in my mind, and make him basically backing him into another corner where he's going to sit there and react violently.
And try to force her again.
So I don't really look at it as, oh, she got weak and all that. I think she was doing it just to get him out of the house.
She's trying to play it smarter. Almost like she did wake up a little bit from last night's, fight, but she doesn't want him to know that. You know? So she lets him kiss her, and he starts to seduce her again, and she lets him. It's the whole rigmarole of it.
I mean, literally, I hate to say this, but every time it's like, oh, wow, he just does the same move.
He does. He's a one-trick pony. And he tells her that he needs her, and he wants and he wants her to trust him. And she says, even though she's having this good little, self-mental breakthrough, she says what I consider to be the single most damning line in the whole book. Okay. She says, I do trust you. I just don't trust myself. Which, in turn, prompts Ezra to be more reassuring, so that she finally just, agrees to the whole thing to be done the next day. She'll have a normal wedding where she's still a mythic, but on the wedding night, she'll participate in the BLE for him. And then as soon as Ezra leaves, Skye's like,
what the fuck?
Holy shit, what have I done? And she picks up the phone and calls Ava and is like, girl, we need to go get a drink. So
she's an idiot.
So why do you think she said that? I just don't trust myself. People say it all the time. So why am I saying that that's the single most damning, detrimental line in the whole book?
Because it is. I mean, it fully encapsulates the problems that, as you read, she's supposed to be this headstrong person. And yet she's like, but it's the problem of she can't commit to anything. And her lack of knowledge.
Yeah.
And the fact she has nobody else to, talk to get information.
Yeah.
You got a sanguis all around you, sitting there saying, oh, it's not going to be that bad. It's not going to be that bad. And you read the books and they say it's going to be terrible.
Mm-hmm.
And you have no other reference to go by. And you're listening to a guy that really has no redeeming value.
And nothing to lose.
Yeah.
That's the other thing. He's like, it's not going to be that bad. Well, sure, for you.
Yeah.
You're the one who gets everything.
It makes you...
So now, right in this point, we're at the night before the wedding, Saturday night. Skye has invited Ava to go drink with her at the Devil's Fountain and work through some of this weird rigmarole that she can't seem to sort out in her own head. And much to Skye's dismay, Ava brings Peyton and CJ. Party poopers. Quick aside, because I don't think we've talked about CJ up to this point.
I think we talked about her just a little bit.
Yeah, so just a really quick, if you haven't read in the beginning, CJ is Peyton's best friend from childhood. She's a human, but her father's a zombie. They work together at Virham Labs, her and CJ and Peyton. We'll have a whole series of Murmurs of Murr County dedicated to her, but I just want everybody to know that's who she is. She's a conquistador, all that. Just so you know, like, you're not like, who's this random person?
Look, she can be a random booty call. Come on now.
Could. So when all the girls are there at the Devil's Fountain, oddly enough, it's Peyton who's the first to rush to the bar where Skye is, throws her arms around her and is like, oh, I'm so happy for you. And clearly Peyton's excited for the wedding, but Skye isn't all that excited because she's like, you fucking bailed on me last night. Where were you? Like,
as she downs the fifth drink.
Seriously. So then CJ shows up and is like, where's this big fancy ring I've heard about? I really want to see it. CJ really has a thing for Ezra, and she hates that Skye is with him. Like, she hates Ezra chose Skye because she's like, what the fuck does that Jericho bitch have that I don't?
Isn't that the actual line in the book?
Pretty much, yeah.
Because I was like, ooh, wow.
Yeah, because even though she's friends with Peyton, she's never really liked Skye, much like everybody else.
She actually really doesn't like the
Jericho family. Yeah, she doesn't really. So when she's asking to see the ring, it's with that ulterior motive in mind of, let me see that thing, because what can I do to make that my ring? So that's kind of where we're going with the CJ element. But Skye is not wearing it, nor does she even have it on her person, and makes up the excuse because she's like, the fuck are you doing, CJ? Get out of my face. So her excuse is, oh no, I'm not wearing it. It's a little too big for my finger right now. So I want to keep it safe and not wear it out, risk losing it or something. So, they all kind of sit at the bar. Of course, CJ is like trying to make it that Skyelar, I guess, is behaving on so that Ezra doesn't get hurt or whatever. So it's kind of like Skye's ideal night of venting to somebody that she actually trusts has quickly turned into a makeshift bachelorette party, and she's not super keen on it until I got my dopey smile back. Before Skye can even order her next drink, Eli shows up and brings her one. And his presence alone just instantly calms her and is like, oh my God, I feel so much better now that you're here. So she starts to slip into this unique little power that she has that we call focus. And it's basically where she can shut out the rest of the world and pull one or a couple people into this like bubble with her. So that for whatever reason, it could be that maybe they want to have a private conversation. And so that's the way they get privacy. Or maybe she just wants to make out with somebody and nobody knows it. So she does that. But that's kind of what that thing is. And when I say that she pulls them into a bubble, I mean that very literally. If you're on the outside looking at it, all you will see is like this pixelated veil. She starts to bring him into focus, but then she's like, I probably shouldn't. So she quickly gets out of it because the other girls are there. And of course, CJ's already being a pain in her ass. So she doesn't really need to pull them into focus anyway, because Eli is like, why don't you let them play? You come with me. Just the two of us. And she's like, all right. So Peyton and CJ put up a fight about it because Ezra, whatever.
That's what I don't understand. And I think the only reason they put up a fight is the optics. You know, she is technically an engaged woman.
Exactly.
And stuff. The sanctity of marriage and all that.
That's, yeah.
I don't really think it. Yeah, CJ is a lost cause. But the other two, Ava
Ava totally wants her to go with
she's
Eli.
like,
yeah,
you go.
She's like, yes, go be with him. It's fine. But yeah, they don't, and Skye doesn't care that Peyton and CJ don't want her to go. Eli takes her to Alchemic Falls, which it's just the two of them at the falls that night. And
that's why they say magic.
Yes. And we learn in their conversing that Eli is quite old, like a lot older than he looks. He's been around for hundreds of years. Skye doesn't care. She understands that most creatures have a very long lifespan, and some can even seem like it's eternal, like a sanguise. And of course, Eli is no exception because he's a mythic as well. So that's something I didn't mention when we talked about chapter 9. He is also a mythic. So they sit comfortably in silence at the falls, and that's one of my favorite things to do with these two in particular. Skye and Eli have such a strong bond that they can sit in that really comfortable silence, and everything that needs to be said is being said in that silence.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's even comfortable to read as the reader. Like you're just like, oh, this is nice. We're just calm and quiet, and we know, like, it's just a really nice thing. And it's one of the things she likes most about him, because she doesn't seem to have that with hardly anybody else. And why do you think that is? Why can't she find that peace even with her own father?
Because they're both mythics.
You think so?
Yeah.
Both of you had the exact same answer. So you think there's something with that magic? Yeah,
because how easily, like, with focus.
Yeah.
Even though her power and use of it is a little bit better than rudimentary.
Yeah.
She can use it, whereas he immediately recognized it, was like, oh, hey.
Yeah.
And, went right in and actually bolstered her power to solidify it. And that's part of the reason it probably scared her. Because she was like, ooh, wait, this is too much.
Yeah.
I need to get out. And the fact that she sensed that, I think, is one of the reasons why they can sit there and sit at the falls, not say a word, and be just totally fine.
Yeah.
And also, she can sit there and actually let her guard down.
Yeah. So at last, Eli breaks the silence with what I consider, whereas Skyelar before had the most damning line in the book, I think his line here is the single most pivotal line for both of them in the whole book. He flat out looks at her and says, Skye, don't marry Ezra. And Skye is very surprised by the boldness. She's like, whoa, where was this guy last night? Like, so she asks him to elaborate because, like you said, she feels like she can let her guard down, and she truly does. Like, this moment is probably the most genuine version of Skyelar that we've seen to this point. So she admits that she doesn't want to be a sanguise at all, but it kind of comes with the territory of marrying one, so why fight it? And then Elias reminds her, he's like, you know that Ezra has the ability to alter your thoughts and feelings. And she's like, I know, but I really hope he's not doing that. Like, I don't think he's doing that. And she's still trying to give Ezra the benefit of the doubt, but she also has her own mental defenses up to kind of protect herself.
So she thinks.
So hearing Elias be so forthcoming really does have her second guessing whether she actually has done a good job at protecting herself. No amount of magic, he even tells her, no amount of magic in the world can make someone genuinely feel what doesn't exist in their heart. You can't do that. That's not how this works. And that's like reassuring her, trying to get her out of that confused rut.
It took him a day. He was sitting there, he was piecing it all together.
He just had to think about it. You know, that's the kind of person Elias is. And
he thinks for 2 weeks and acts
well. So him saying all that to her seems to be just what she needs to hear, because she begins to realize she doesn't have a romantic love for Ezra. Hallelujah! She finally admits it to herself, at least. And she even goes
after 6 months of disappointment.
Yeah. She even goes so far as to say something with him. She says it to herself. Something is missing, and she wonders.
Orgasms.
Yeah, and she wonders what it is about her that Ezra wants so badly that he would work his ass off to trick her this way. So the longer Skye is allowed to sit at the falls and ponder over this forced love for Ezra, she realizes, holy shit, I'm a totally different person than who I was 6 months ago. Like, she says to herself that she feels like she lost a part of herself and even part of her magic without even realizing it had happened.
Mm-hmm.
So she even thinks there were so many things she used to be able to do with her magic, but now she's weak because she hasn't used it. Remember, I've said this whole time on this channel, magic is fluid. You lose it, or you use it or lose it. That's how it goes. And she fears life with Ezra, but she's comforted by Eli's presence. So it seems like Eli feels likewise, because now, while they've got another quiet moment, he starts to lean in as if he wants to kiss her, but he's kind of doing that like, I don't know if I should. So she just looks him dead in the face. Here's our genuine Skye coming out again, and she just goes, you can kiss me if you want. I won't stop you. And so he does. And so
I like how he, this dude's been around for like a long time, but he's acting like the nerd that's never kissed a girl. I'm like, do I?
There's a very specific reason for that.
And you're just like, you're like, for the love of God, dude.
I know. You just want to go up to him and take both their heads and smush them together. And he even, when he finally kisses her, and it's like this beautiful moment, he even like pulls her into his lap and they start making out, and it's like a whole thing. But then he's like, reality hits and he's like, shit, no, we really shouldn't do this. You're supposed to marry Ezra tomorrow. Like, it's a whole thing. And she looks at him and goes, I mean, we can go back to my place if that'll make you more comfortable. And he thinks about it for like maybe 0.3 seconds and goes, yeah, okay. So
the only thing missing was a bed.
No, privacy.
Yeah. So she takes him back to her place. Now,
that's where she screwed up.
Well, now, here's the thing about taking him back to her place. At this point, even though they've known each other for a good 3 years, he's never been to her house. And she's really never been inside his. She's been like on the front porch and stuff.
Yeah.
But she's never been inside his house. They've only really met at the bar and hung out at the bar where it can be just the two of them, whatever. So this is a huge deal for him. He's like, holy shit, I'm going to Skyelar Jericho's house. Like, what?
Oh, yeah, let's do this.
And so then they get inside. They're in the little lab common area, and they start stripping each other's clothes off, and they're making out, the whole, like, bumping into walls thing. And then she thinks about it, and she's like, all right, I think I'm going to do it. She opens the door to the main part of her house and takes him upstairs to her bedroom. She lights candles for him. Then she lays on the bed and is like, I'm here. Do what you want. And so he...
haven't gotten off in 6 months.
Yeah, right? So he climbs on top and starts undoing her jeans, and they're making out. And then fucking cock block of the century, man. horn blares as they're coming down the drive, and they're like, Skyelar's like, what the fuck?
No, I know the exact
And she's
line.
like, for fuck's sake!
Yes.
And she gets up. Now, normally, I do need to stress that under normal circumstances, Skyelar knows immediately when somebody has crossed that plane onto her property, whether they're friend or foe. She knows someone is there. She did not know that the girls were coming in their car, horn blaring, because she was so distracted. And she was just glad to finally be kissing Elias. Like, so why do you think Skye broke her own rules for Eli? What's so special about him? Literally no one has been there.
Eli has not done anything. If anything going on, he's been the most supportive. Also, the person that she feels most comfortable with.
Yeah. Of course, like I said, the girls are the ones honking. And Ava, she goes on record. She's like, Skye, I wanted nothing to do with this. I wanted to stay at the bar and drink and let you have your fun. These bitches dragged me here. So Peyton and CJ feel the need to stop Skye from cheating on Ezra. You know that's all primarily driven by CJ, probably.
I was going to say, wasn't it CJ that saw them leaving?
Yes,
because she was snooping around?
Yeah, because she was looking for her.
That was the mistake. If they were going to leave, it should have been in Elias's car.
Yeah. Yeah. Skye, whenever, of course, Skye looks at CJ as, what the fuck ever, get out of my face. But Peyton being there, doing yet it's another time when Skye feels like Peyton doesn't have her back. Skye has spent her whole life having Peyton's back, and Peyton barely returns the favor. And this moment, of all moments, should have been the one where Peyton's like, dude, just leave her alone. But she doesn't.
Let her sow her wild oats one last time.
Exactly, but she doesn't do that. She joins forces with CJ. So that makes Skyelar get all defensive, and she's like, all right, I fought this bitch before. I'll kick her ass again. So she even goes so far as to tell Peyton, go ahead and transform into your little wolfy piece of shit, because I'm dying to break its face, and I know it can handle it. And so Peyton, being dared to do so, does so. And they start fighting. Eli comes out because he hears the commotion. And he's like, what the hell's going on? Well, he accidentally gets caught in the crossfire. Peyton goes for Skye, but she moves and she hits Eli instead. Scratches him on the arm. Skye is like, holy fuck. People, creatures too, they don't really, they get sick from lichen scratches. Unless you've built up some kind of immunity, you get sick from it. Well, Skye has built up an immunity to it. She assumes that it stems from their genetic, because they're sisters. And Skyelar, having the upper hand, being on her property and everything, she's got this cage in the corner of the room that's specifically made for Peyton, or other creatures, but mainly Peyton. She sends that bitch in that cage and locks it up, and no one can get her. So Peyton's stuck as her wolf in a cage, like a dog, basically. And Ava and CJ leave. When Eli gets scratched, she learns that he is also immune. It's a relief to her, but kind of a surprise. But then she's like, well, he has been around for a long time. So somewhere along the way, he probably, built up, whatever. But when he heals his wound, he gets he's not too pleased with it, but whatever. He gets a commemorative tattoo. So Elias is pretty much covered in tattoos, at least on his arms and torso. And they all came from, she even asks him, did you get all your tattoos from battle scars, so to speak? And he's like, actually, yeah, I did. Every tattoo I have is because of some kind of altercation I was in. So she's like, that's super cool. How can I learn to do that? And he's like, I can teach you, baby. Let me show you the way. And she's like, all right. So she's still topless, pants unbuttoned, by the way.
Wait, no, she still had a bra on.
Well, topless without a shirt.
Oh.
So she's leaning against him, who has no shirt on as well, and she has a scar on the back of her arm of claw marks from her sister, and he turns that into a like pretty rainbow type tattoo, and she loves it. And she's like, "Can you teach me?" He's like, "Absolutely." And then of course they're all like, the intimacy of the moment leads to another nice little makeout sesh, and he lays her down, and this time he does get them pants off. So he takes her legs, starts kissing up that inner thigh in that nice way, because he's got a beard and everything. So he starts kissing up that inner thigh, and they're holding hands. And when they hold hands in the intimacy of the moment, both of them feel this physical spark that burns their hands when they connect. Just for a second. It doesn't last. And neither of them know what it is. Skye's like, "What was that?" And he's like, And they go to like try to talk about what it was, but they're interrupted again before they can find out. So she goes downstairs, and unfortunately this time Daddy's there. So she can't be too upset because it's Daddy. Noel is the only one who really, besides Elias it seems, can talk her down off a ledge when she feels like she's about to just throw herself over. And of course, she gets scolded for trapping Peyton in a cage, and she's apologetic. Peyton comes out and is like, "Bitch." And Noel's like, "Hey, go wait in the car." So she does. And that doesn't really ruffle Skye's feathers too much. The main thing that really ruffles her feathers is being caught cheating on her fiance by her dad.
Oh, God.
That's because it's Dad. You don't want to, like, that's awkward and weird. She came out almost totally naked, so she throws on Elias's shirt, you know, and...
Oh, yeah, that's really helping your cause.
But, you know, so when Noel tries to get her to tell him how she really feels, she really can't.
Again, she didn't just sit there and just say what you're doing.
Yeah.
You know?
Something inside of Skye wants to ditch Ezra, but something stronger won't let her. And she tells Noel, being with Elias tonight was the first time in a long time that she's felt like her old self again. And Noel is like, he gives her something to think about. And he's like, "Well, Angel, maybe you don't need to be your old self. Maybe you need to find somebody that will take that old version of you and transform her into someone even better." And so he's like, "Take the night to think about it, please. And if you change your mind tomorrow, no one's going to be upset." So Noel leaves, and Eli heard a bit of that conversation. So he's like, "All right, I got to take my leave because this shit's you really got to think about what your dad said."
Nah.
And she's like, "All right, fine." So she's left to spend the night alone. The next morning, she is very rudely awakened by Peyton, Ava, and Cordelia showing up at her place to get ready for the wedding. Now,
I'm surprised Cordelia didn't just, like, actually catch fire from
from
the magic. Yeah.
So Delia, what he's talking about is Delia has never been to Skyelar's house before. And anybody who is an intruder on her property, because Skyelar has to basically tell her magic, it's okay. And anybody who's an intruder, the magic starts to suffocate them and crush them until they die if she doesn't know that they're there. So Delia was very sick and worn down by the time she got to Skye's house. And Skye relieves the pressure, and then she's completely floored when Delia does something totally out of character. Noel had gone home the previous night and told her about Skye's rough time. Delia brings her wedding dress that she wore when she married Noel, brings it to Skye and says, "I wanted you to have a good memory of today, so I want you to wear this. I think you'll be beautiful." And Skye's like, OMG, what the fuck? Like, she can't believe it's happening. And so it's like a nice little touching moment.
It's like, as shitty as your relationship's gonna be, this will be the one high point.
And so she lets the girls start to doll her up. And then when Ava goes to hug her good morning and congrats and all that, she whispers in her ear, CJ might have done something bad last night. So, when we get to the church for the wedding ceremony, we learn what that bad thing was. But Skye is way too frantic and anxious, and she's even a little doubtful, as we expect, to worry about what CJ might have done. So she sends Ava to make sure Ezra is actually there at the church, still ready to go through with it. She claims that she's worried he's had a change of heart. So once Ava reports back to say that Ezra is there, all hell breaks loose. Noel comes rushing into the makeshift bridal suite because he hears Skyelar scream bloody murder. Turns out, when Ava encountered Ezra, she got her hands covered in something red, and when she hugged Skye after seeing her how beautiful she was in the wedding dress, she got red all over that white dress. So it does not it's a horrible catastrophe, especially for Cordelia, because that's her dress. It does not take long for Skye to piece together what happened, and this is where shit gets real. She pins CJ against the wall and demands to look at her neck. She does not give her an option. So sure enough, fresh bite marks, not even stopped bleeding yet. And Skye, it's a really neat thing that happens, and she doesn't quite acknowledge it yet, but when she touches the blood and gets a little on her fingers, she sees flashes of Ezra biting CJ. That's kind of a neat little magic thing that happens to her. So, in spite of all her doubts, now Skye is still offended by what just happened, because she's like, fuck you guys, you did this behind my back. So she slaps CJ, drags her out of there by the hair, and marches her down the aisle to the altar where Ezra's waiting because it was almost time for the ceremony, and everybody in the pew is watching, and they're horrified, and she takes CJ, tosses her at Ezra's feet, and slaps him across the face. And he's like, I can explain! And she's like, fuck you. No, you can't. And so she starts losing her shit. She makes the candles, like the flame kind of explodes a little. And everybody has to evacuate. But they're no safer outside because Skye, with her magic, she doesn't have a lot with it that she knows of, but she does have that nature bond. So she's already started a thunderstorm outside, so people aren't safe no matter where they are. And Elias gets up from the pew, rushes to her, and is like, focus on me. Just look at me. None of this matters. Do not do this because you don't want to be like him. And so he finally gets her to calm down, sends her out to his car. He says he'll take care of it, takes her back to his house. At this point, it's raining, and they both know it's because she willed it so. And she stands outside when she gets out of the car and just stands there letting the rain soak into her pores. He finally comes over, scoops her up in his arms, and starts to walk to the house when here comes Ezra's truck, collides right in with Elias's car. Ezra gets out of his truck and slams the door. They burst into flames because Skye probably did something. And Eli puts Skye down on the porch to go over and confront Ezra again to get him to leave. But Ezra is not going anywhere without Skye. He even says that I am not leaving without my wife. And Eli's like, so, but again, it's that one of those moments of Skye feeling like everybody is talking about her when she's right there, and they're not letting her have a say. So she's like, no, fuck this. She gets off the porch, goes over to Ezra, and as she walks over there, the ground between them opens up and starts swallowing the vehicles, and at the risk of losing her because Ezra still doesn't know when to stop and still insists that Skye is not strong enough to know the difference between real feelings and magically forced feelings. And that is all Skye needs to hear, because she's like, I'm gonna show you magic. So she, in one of I think Tasha's favorite moments from the whole book, Skye takes Ezra with her magic. She burns him a little bit to torture him, and Eli takes advantage of that moment to reveal something to Skye about Ezra. He insinuates that he seems to remember the old Sanguise fable about the lifeblood being a source strong enough to fight against the devil himself. And that causes Skye to drop Ezra to the ground and go, "Are you the fucking original sin Sanguise?" And he's like, "No, baby, I promise. No, Elias is lying to you." And he is convinced that the only reason Skye even left the church with Elias is because Elias used some kind of magic on her to trick her into not loving Ezra anymore. Do you think that Ezra is the original sin Sanguise? Or is that just another way Eli is trying to get Skye on his side, almost like a ploy or something?
I don't believe he's the original. If he is, he really set him on the wrong path.
Skye does not believe that Eli is tricking her with magic, but she is convinced now that Ezra has been for a minimum of 6 months. So she punishes him by striking him with lightning so that he falls lifelessly to the ground. He doesn't die, but Skye has had enough. She takes off that ring and gives it to Eli and is like, "I can't even go over there. You give it back to him." So Eli does. When he's done making sure that Ezra knows Skye is finished with him, Skye gladly takes his hand, takes Elias's hand, follows him into his house, and leaves Ezra on the destroyed lawn. And that's how it ends. So before we wrap this up, I do have just a couple finishing questions. First and foremost, I know Tasha has said several times that she wishes Skye would have just killed Ezra. Got it over with. So let's speculate. What do you think would have happened if she had killed him? How would the future have changed?
I think she probably would have been more into Elias or whatever. I think she would probably have been happier, and she would have been thinking a lot clearer.
Yeah.
And she knew she would not. One, she would probably have orgasms,
Right.
but that she wouldn't have to deal with him anymore, and she wouldn't have to worry about him manipulating her
Yeah.
anymore.
Like a relief.
Yeah.
Okay. Last question to end this first book discussion. Where does Skyelar go from here?
Honestly, you've fallen as far as you can go.
Oh, has she? Oh, has she?
Yes.
Yeah.
She's kind of got the weight off her shoulders a little bit.
Yeah.
And she's also realized that she really does have power.
Yeah.
And when you piss her off, you better run for the hills.
That was our amazing first discussion about Skyelar Jericho from In the Beginning. Thank you guys so much for getting through that, because I know it was a little lengthy, but it was so good. So I am excited to continue the Murmurs of Murr County series and learn more about Skye and the rest of the characters. Next week, we're going to be talking about Skyelar as she relates to false idols, which is book 2. So we'll kind of build upon what we've talked about this week. And if you enjoyed our discussion about Skyelar, be sure to like this video, and I want you to tell us in the comments what you think would have changed if Skye had killed Ezra instead of letting him live. And before we go, I do want to remind everybody that all 4 Angel of Death books are available directly on my website. So go to StevieJoAuthor.com, order your copies today. Paperback, hardcover, dust jacket, all available there. And as a bonus, for all of 2023, anybody who subscribes to my newsletter, it's a quarterly newsletter, so I'm not junking up your inbox, but anybody who subscribes to that gets free shipping on every order for the entire year. So right now I just have the books on my website, but shortly I'll be adding prints and then more little things that are coming out, so you can buy some of that stuff. So if you want free shipping on all your Angel of Death orders, subscribe to my monthly newsletter and order straight from my website. Small price to pay for some freebies, right? So thank you so much for hanging in there until the end. We appreciate each and every one of you. We love you, and we look forward to seeing you again next week.
Catch up on the Angel of Death series today. The first 4 entries are now available directly at steviejoauthor.com. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe to the Composition of Imagination to learn more behind-the-scenes info and stay up to date on the fun and lively discussion.